if you really want to feel like a queen or an empress, you need to treat him like a king or an emperor. And you need to stop thinking that men are stupid. No, men are not stupid. They just have a different understanding of marriage when they walk down the aisle. And you're taking the one thing that they expect out of marriage and removing it. And when you take that one thing that they expect out of marriage, the marriage dissolves. It's gone. Because that's the one thing they expect. That is the one common predominant thing men expect when they are vowing their vows as they walk down the aisle out of every race, out of every nation on earth. That there is no such thing as blackmailing for sex from thereafter. Whether you're angry at them, whether you're upset with, something they laughed at on TV or didn't notice that you changed your hair or whatever it is that you think you've got a right to say no sex. You are, from the moment you start blackmailing a man for sex, from that moment, you are bringing death to your marriage. And I'm being blatant about it because divorce is off the charts. Men are not stupid. I know women are laughing all over the world and stuff, thinking that, oh yes they are and stuff. It's like, no they're not. They just have a completely different expectation in marriage. They're not thinking about all the subtle nuances of the finances and of managing assets and of growing, your personal wealth together and stuff. For the most part. Now there's some greedy individuals that can't think anything else but of money, but I'm saying for the most part, to be happily married ever after, sex has to be a regular part. Has to. Can never be taken off the table. Cannot be used as a training tool. Cannot. Unless you want to be unhappily ever after. Because I guarantee that's what will happen. Guaranteed. And I don't care if you're rich or poor. I don't care if you're interracially married or whatever. I'm just saying that if you want to doom a marriage, take sex off the table. Marriage doomed. It doesn't matter what else you're struggling with. All those other arguments and all those other things that seem to be so big vanish away if you two are happily intimate together regularly. All those other things that seem to be monumental, insurpassable, incompatibilities. If you're regularly happily intimate together, all those things are like, moot points. They're hardly noticeable, almost imperceptible. Sex. Women, stop using it as a training tool. Stop blackmailing your husbands for sex. And stop thinking that they're inferior and treating them as such. You will be unhappily ever after. You do that. Men, women blame men, he was abusive this and abusive that and this and that and stuff. Men get violent, or they go into their basic grunt stage when they are fucking denied what they expect. Whether they're able to say it to you directly to your face or not, for whatever reasons. And they expect regular sex out of marriage. And to have it denied for any reason whatsoever, man, puts a man in his fucking grumpy mood. I am being blatant and I am being coarse and I am being crude on purpose because I am angry and incensed over what is going on all over the world. That fundamentally, because men and women are not working this out openly and honestly in a meeting of the minds between the sexes about marriage, it's dissolving families, which creates unhappy children, which grow up to be unhappy adults, which grow up to be unhappy societies, cities, towns, states, nations, which grows into war. I'm serious. That a stable, happy family molecule makes for a stable, happy nation and a stable, happy world. I am absolutely serious about this. That marriage needs, a spotlight needs to be shown on marriage from the divine, and I'm saying that I'm doing it right now. I prayed for divine discernment, and this is what I got. A revelation of thousands upon thousands of men and women, mostly women, vast majority of them women, all over the planet, and then just men collectively, in general, from the divine of what they expect in marriage. And I'm telling you, it's sex. Regular sex. Fundamentally. When they are pledging their vows, whether they're able to express it to you verbally or not, in their natural mind, no sex is absolutely unthinkable. It is absolutely unthinkable that a woman would use that as a blackmail tool to train them, to get them, to manipulate them, to become their slave that does, their bidding just so they can get some intimate contact. You want to end your marriage, you wonder why the divorce rate's so high. That's it! Blackmailing for sex. And this is going to be blatant. That is the number one foundational reason. People say it's over money and all this and power struggles and all that. But it all boils down to that one issue. Blackmailing for sex. Women trying to dominate men through sex. And it's creating happily ever after, and really it's actually resulting in wars on the planet. Miserable people, selfish and greedy, trying to be happy because they can't get out of marriage for the way God Almighty, our Creator, designed what they need, which is intimate contact that expresses that they are loved and accepted and cherished. So in my divine discernment, I saw, very common things. That people, by and large, in the natural realm, are very happy if they are getting that. Regular intimacy, hugs and kisses, and between husbands and wives, regular sex. If they have food and water, clothes on their back, and it even gets better if they have their own little roof over their heads, a home that they can call home with a little bit of dirt on the earth that they believe is their, right to steward, to plant things, gardens and trees and so on and so forth. That whole combination makes for the most common basic elements of true happiness for men, women, and children. It's just having that, food enough to eat, water, clean, potable water enough to drink, clothes on their back, and love. Those basic elements are it's so common. It's just such a common thing. Now, I'm not saying there's some deranged souls out there that they're just happy being miserable and being evil and being insatiable. But I'm saying, from the Creator, by divine revelation, this is where it's at. About happy, stable men, women, and children, and which make for stable nations, which makes for a stable world, a peaceful world. And when women finally get it, that's really what men, when they're saying their vows to you, in marriage, are expecting, is regular, intimate contact. That can never be a no answer when they ask or desire. It just can't be. That somehow, shape, or form between you, when you walk down the aisles in marriage, you've got to have that open discussion clearly with one another about what you both are expecting out of marriage. And I'm not talking about creating this long contractual list. I'm not saying that you can't do that if you want to. If you want to actually type up an expectation of marriage and stuff, that might help. Whatever it gets for people before they say their vows, to actually have a meeting of the minds, and to try as much as you possibly can to look into your soul and to be blatantly honest with that person about what you are expecting out of marriage. Now, I'm not saying people as they journey in life don't have a change in desires or change of mind or this and that, and fortunately that happens all the time. So even with that meeting of the minds, doesn't mean that that's always going to be necessarily the case for the rest of the marriage. But if at least you can be honest in the moment, there's a chance of being honest as each day passes together, which will keep the marriage going strong. But if you can't be honest from day one, man, your marriage is doomed. Doomed. And the statistics prove it. Women, stop trying to manipulate men through sex. I don't know how else to say it, man. I'm just going to be blatant. And you may call me a chauvinistic pig or whatever. I don't care. I'm like, this is ultimately will make you miserable and happy, because you'll be then on this quest to try to find a man you can respect. And when you finally find a man you can respect, in other words, one that won't, cow down to your every whim and will with every little demand and notion, and who, as soon as you blackmails for sex, says, I'm sorry, baby, I don't play that game, hasta la vista. Then you're going to get all angry that the number one tool that you thought was your ace in the hole that every man could be enslaved by, certain of them can't. Doesn't work. Then you're going to realize, me and my girlfriend's got it all wrong. You're going to be miserable. So just don't do it. Unless you want to be miserable. Instead, once you, convinced a man, whose nature it is, basically, to hunt and forage and so on and so forth. I'm speaking in the natural realm. And that sex is a very basic, intrinsic part of every species, the desire, for it. And especially of human beings, not just for reproduction, but for pleasure. That it sends this, message, whether true or false, of at least the notion that somebody accepts them, that somebody, loves them. Whether true or false, intimate contact sends that message. So if you're withholding that for any reason in marriage, you are dooming the marriage, because that person, man, no longer gets even a false sense of being loved and accepted, which is an intrinsic part of the glue that holds a relationship together. So the moment you start blackmailing for sex, man, you are dooming the marriage. The person immediately feels unloved, uncherished, unappreciated. Immediately. Now, if for any reason, the sex, that you're having is not, is enjoyable for both of you, now that's something you've got to openly address. I guarantee, as long as sex is on the table for the man, he will endeavor, ladies, man, to make sure you're happy, because it makes it better for him. To be with you when you're happy, when you're in the mood, when you want some. And when he doesn't have to just constantly beg for it, because you're using it as a tool to train him. I don't know how else to be, as blatant as I possibly can about what the Lord showed me. But it is also why the vast majority are not faithful. It's why adultery is so prevalent. Because there's not this common meeting of the minds between the sexes. And so women are like, well, how do I get, my hubby to do the honey-do list? I'm like, make your man happy. Never, ever blackmail him for sex. Give it to him. Make sure he's, a happy camper, well-fed, and so on and so forth. And if he tells you he's tired after working all, day long, believe him. And ask yourself, how important is that honey-do list? And then give the guy the option. Most men, man, hate this option, So forgive me, guys, but at least give them the option. In other words, well, honey, I suppose, we can hire, another man. As soon as you bring another man into the picture, dude's like, oh crap, man, I've got to do this. I suppose we can hire another man, to come out here and do this, your hard-earned money spent, on another man, to do this thing that really needs to be done. But don't blackmail the guy for sex. Do not. That is death to the marriage. You want to know why people love pets so much? Because when they walk through the door, whether they're angry whether they're sad, whether they're glad, whether they're mad, no matter what they're feeling, that pet is there to greet them. They walk through the door. The reason they love their pets so much is their pets, man, are just like, oh boy, you're home. You want to make your marriage a happily ever after marriage? You need to act like that towards one another. If the woman comes through the door after shopping or after, taking the kids out or after working, whatever she's doing, the man needs to be there. Oh boy, you're home. Hugging on her, loving on her, kissing her, and vice versa. The man's been out all day working and so on and so forth. And even if the wife had been working prior to but got home first or whatever, still needs to be at the door when he comes home. And if at all possible, man, you guys at least once a week, man, need to shuffle the kids somewhere, anywhere. Send them over to a friend's house. Have an agreement worked out with your neighbors. Whatever you need to do so that, at that particular moment in time, it's like it was before the kids were all around. In other words, you can be dressed up all sexy, all cleaned up, washed up, perfumed, and ready for love. Love! If that ain't happening, on a regular basis, and I don't know, maybe after, 20 years of marriage, it might be like a once a month thing for you. I would hope it never got that far apart personally. But I'm just saying, if you want your marriage to be happily ever after, you have got to recognize, how God fundamentally created male and female to be. Due to the falling away, females rebel against the natural order of things. Now, I'm not saying men are supposed to, constantly put the foot down, and if there's a disagreement, it always goes the way the man wants it to go. But if a woman ever would just take that position, actually assume the position, that in a rare disagreement between you and your husband, you let the poor guy have his way. Right? Now, if he's right, well, what's that going to do? That's going to be like causing the woman that actually gave in to him, that was in a disagreement, to think, well, maybe my thought about the buffoon is wrong. Maybe he actually does know what he's talking about. And hopefully at least 90% of the time that turns out to be the case. But in the rare instance where she happened to be right on the matter, now I'm speaking again openly and blatantly about how men and women think and why there's this ongoing battle between the sexes. According to divine revelation, this isn't just coming from my. I would have never thought about what kind of common problem this is throughout the whole world. I want to see divorces go way down and happy marriages go way up, because it'll make for a much more happy world. Happy people skipping off to work, and oh boy, I'm loved and accepted. I'm cherished and appreciated. Thank you, God. Which makes for contagious happiness everywhere. Everybody happily skipping down the street. Hey, Joe. Hey, Brett. And laughing and smiling because they know why they're so happy. You're too sexy for my... Yeah. Absolutely, positively. Whether it's going to be stated or not. And I'm hoping, from here on out that it's not such a big deal. That people don't have to get a divine revelation to understand it. That this is what's going on. There's this battle between the sexes. May it come to an end so we all can be happy. In Yahushua's mighty name, amen.